Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. It's 7 o'clock in the morning. I had to wait for it to get light to find out what was wrong. Got up this morning, was making my coffee, and I noticed the kitchen window and the glass in the back door was wet. Condensation. And I thought, that's not normal. Perhaps it's really cold outside. And I thought, well, actually it's not, because it would be really cold inside. So I came out to the greenhouse, and basically the door was nearly shut, as always, like that. So there's only a little gap. Yeah, must have stopped the cats getting in there at night and sitting in front of the heater. But basically the heater and its associated fan were on, but so was the humidifier. Of course it's dark. So I opened the door and I thought there's something, and as I opened the door I got hit with a heat wave. So I turned some lights on. It was 31 degrees in here, and the humidifier was trying to compensate the best it could. How long it had been like that, I don't know. But until it got light I couldn't really see what was wrong, so I just turned everything off. Literally pulled the plugs, and then once it got light we found the culprit, and boy were we lucky we didn't have a fire. Obviously some wires have short-circuited in there, which effectively allowed the current to flow continuously, which is why the heater was just on and wouldn't shut down. The mechanism had stopped working. Now, I've had these little Chinese gadgets for donkey's years. That's the first one I've ever had short out like that. I mean, luckily, if the unit itself had caught fire, there's not much above it that would have burnt. And the first thing that would have happened probably is the power would have failed anyway. But yeah, that's a complete goner now. You can see where it's actually melted with the heat. But that's the trouble. You're putting, I think these units were designed for low voltage, like 12 volts, things like that. And then obviously the demand was there to step them up. So you can get them at 110 volts, like for the American market, and some other markets I presume are at that voltage. But in this country we run at 230, 240 volts. That's a lot of power. And a little tiny unit like that with tiny circuitry. So although it says it can handle it, I don't think it can. Not long term anyway. But all that needed was for, see, this is the problem, is these tiny little connections here on the end of my thumb. That's where the wires have to go. Yeah? And then these tiny little screws are what hold them in place on these tiny little connectors. That's what's wrong with the unit, is the connections. They're just too small and fiddly. I've always said they're a faff to wire up, and it only needs two to touch. You know, where you've got bits like this, you know, only needs a little loose hair wire to cross and short circuit. Anyway, that's dead. Luckily, no damage done. Having a load of extra heat in here for well, even if it was most of the night, it's still better than getting down to freezing. Heat they can put up with. And Hurricane Hector was doing his thing, trying to keep the humidity up so it didn't drop down too much. But yeah, so I've ordered a new one, and what I've done is I've ordered an Inkbird one like that. That's a much more substantial unit, also quite a bit more expensive, but nonetheless everything's hardwired, so all I've got to do is plug things in, and I quite like that idea. And the same with this unit. You get a socket with two plug holes in it basically. One of them is for humidification, the other's for dehumidification, and you've got settings for both, so they can run two things together. So when I get my thermostat version of that, it can do heating and cooling. Now every year, twice a year in fact, I've always had to rewire this from heating to cooling, because in the summer I want these two big fans to come on as the temperature rises, so I want the cooling function to run. But in the winter, obviously when I've got the heater on, I want the heater to come on as the temperature drops down, so I want the heating function. Well, with one of those I get both in the same unit, and all I've got to do is plug things in. So that's been ordered. Hopefully it'll arrive reasonably soon, because in the meantime I've got a problem. The only way I can run the heater is to use the thermostat on the heater, which has got no values on it. It's got plus and minus. It's either that, or I leave this door wide open all night long and just let the heat from the residual heat from the house keep the chill off of this. And quite honestly, the heater would only be in here another 3, maybe 4 weeks, so I might just do without the heater. Just put it on a low setting in case we get a really cold snap where the outside temperature's sort of down near freezing and stuff like that. But there's no sign of weather like that at the moment, so I'll see what I can do. But yes, I think we narrowly avoided a fire. But I look at it like this. That's completely burnt out. Completely burnt out. And no fire. So it makes me wonder, when you do get an electrical fire, how bad things have to get before they actually catch, there are actual flames. But I suspect that the plastic material that this is made from is fire resistant, because that's all it needs, isn't it? Anyway, no serious damage done. I'll smell horrible. See you next time.